One of the biggest Cinderella stories of the 2022 NFL season has been the meteoric rise of quarterback Geno Smith, quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. As we enter the playoff weeks for fantasy football, the real playoff weeks for the NFL, and the very, very confusing 2023 offseason, the question still remains, what is going to happen to Geno Smith? And in today's video, we're going to dig more into Geno Smith's meteoric rise. I'm your host, Abhi Gupta, here of Breakout Dynasty. Make sure to follow me at RealAbhiGupta, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss other player breakdowns or our walkthrough of the 2023 NFL Draft as those prospects become hotter and hotter as we enter the offseason. Let's dive right in. So as I mentioned, Geno Smith has had an incredible season. The Seahawks are sitting in playoff contention, just one spot outside of the NFC playoff picture. They were in a very, very good situation to win their division, and right now are still in good position to make the playoffs. Geno Smith started playing for the Seahawks a couple of seasons ago, but really got his first chance to start last season when Russell Wilson got hurt playing the LA Rams and he hurt his finger, and well, Geno Smith played pretty admirably. In the 5 games that he played, he threw for 5 touchdowns, he only threw 1 interception, and led the team to a pretty good record. Now, once Russ came back, the team continued to middle out, but it was clear that Geno wasn't just the Geno of the past from his New York Jets days or being a backup quarterback. No, he was competently able to guide this offense. And so now that we have, the hindsight of the Russell Wilson trade in 2022, where Russell Wilson was traded for a couple of firsts, a couple of seconds, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, and other pieces, we know that actually, as of today, in 2022, Geno Smith has been a way better quarterback than Russell Wilson has been for the Denver Broncos. And so, as we break down what has gone on for Geno Smith in 2022, we know that he has really led the team to a good record at 7-6. The season started off really well when he beat Denver in Russell Wilson's coming home game. He led the team to a 48-point offensive explosion against the playoff-looking Lions and has the team in a good position right now at 7-6. In this season, he's thrown so far for 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, and based on the data that I'm seeing right here, in all but 2 games, he's thrown for at least 2 touchdowns, and in a couple instances, 3 touchdowns. He's only had 1 game where he's thrown 2 interceptions, and overall, he's performed pretty admirably. For those of you fantasy players, he's also had slight rushing upside. Take, for instance, his game against Detroit, where he had 7 rushes for 49 yards and a touchdown, his game against Arizona, where he had 6 rushes for 48 yards, or his game against Arizona again, where he had 6 rushes for 38 yards. Overall, Geno has been doing a really, really good job of making the right read, of making sure to audible into the right plays, and feeding all of his targets, including DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker, and Noah Fant. You take into account Kenneth Walker's meteoric rise as the running back 1 given Breece Hall's injury in this draft class, and really you're asking, what can't this Seahawks offense do? Now, Geno Smith's contract situation has been pretty short-term. He signed a 1-year, $800,000 contract in 2019. He signed a 1-year, $1.2 million contract in 2020. He signed a 1-year, $1.2 million contract in 2021. And now he's currently on a contract where he was signed to a 1-year, $3.5 million contract for the 2022 season. And what we've seen here is that Geno Smith is thoroughly outplaying his contract, as we've pointed out with all of his statistics for this season and for all of the things that he's produced in terms of guiding the Seahawks offense to a pretty capable and explosive case in some of the games that he's played this season. But as we enter the 2023 offseason, we have a lot of different scenarios that could play out for this quarterback. First and foremost, the Seahawks could choose to re-sign Geno Smith, but one very important thing to note is that because his contract has been so cheap, 1 year, $3.5 million, Geno Smith has not really had that big of a cap impact on the team. And so that's allowed the team to go and sign free agents and to have the cap space to go and get the pieces needed to fill out the holes in the team. If they choose to re-sign Geno Smith for the 2023 season and beyond, they most certainly are not going to be able to sign him for a single year unless they franchise him, at which point they're probably going to be paying over $30 million for his deal. If they do choose to sign him for multiple years, we're probably looking at something in the range of 3 years, $100 million at an annual value of about $33 million a year, just given the fact that he is probably the top quarterback on the market if you don't consider Lamar Jackson. You also add in the fact that, well, the Seahawks do have Denver's pick, and as of today, that is the number 2 overall pick in the 2023 draft. A draft class that is touted as very, very good, especially compared to the 2022 draft class. Now, what I think is really interesting is that Seattle has this very robust crossroads that they're coming at. You have a 32-year-old quarterback who has been in your system for a few years, has capably handled the transition from your franchise quarterback for the last decade, and not only has he looked good, he has your team in playoff position. With the number 2 overall pick, do you go and draft the quarterback of the future? Do you go and draft your future hopeful Russell Wilson, your Bryce Young, or your CJ Stroud? Because what that's going to do is give that team the opportunity to reset their financial books. You get a quarterback for 5 years on your deal, and he's relatively cheap. And we know that that's a mechanism that has worked for teams in the past with quarterbacks on rookie deals. See the Chiefs, see the Bills, see the Bengals, see even the Ravens, and many, many other cases. What the Seattle Seahawks need to evaluate is that, is Geno Smith doing enough, and will he come at a price point where he will be able to reliably guide your team into the places that you want the team to go, which will probably be a Super Bowl window, given the fact that the team is very similarly constructed to those early 2010 teams with Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Marshawn Lynch, and Russell Wilson, where the team had a quarterback who could do what was needed, could ad-lib a little bit, but very heavily relied on a good defense, right? And was able to run the hell out of the ball. When you look at the Seahawks team today, you have shades of all of those things with the exception of the defense. And so what Seattle could choose to do is say, hey, with this number 2 or number 3 overall pick, wherever it ends up landing up, let's go draft a quarterback for the future so that we can go and fill all of those other places out with free agents. Seattle could also choose to trade out of that pick and go and draft a lot of other pieces with the haul that they get, which will most likely include at least 2 firsts, if not more. Or Seattle could choose to take that pick and go and draft a defensive tackle, or Will Anderson, a linebacker, or something along those lines, because of how awful the Seattle run defense has been. You take all of these things into effect, and we know that the Seattle, off-season has large ramifications, because if they choose to go the quarterback route in some form or another and let Geno Smith walk, you have a plethora of places where Geno Smith has the possibility of starting. I mean, let's look in his own division, right? So you have San Francisco. They're probably not going to they're not going to sign Geno Smith because they have 2 capable quarterbacks right now. You have the Rams, who really have a conundrum on their hands with Matt Stafford, who may never play again with a spine injury, and Baker Mayfield, who has a lot of question marks around him. You have Arizona, where Kyler Murray is going to be out for at least half the season with his ACL tear. And in division, there are many situations that can end up proving to be useful for Geno Smith to leverage the knowledge that he's developed in Seattle against all of the other NFC West quarterbacks. Taking a step outside of the NFC West, some possible destinations can include the Giants, the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, the Carolina Panthers, hell, even the Tennessee Titans, and maybe the Baltimore Ravens if they don't go and sign Lamar Jackson. I mean, so many teams are quarterback desperate because there are likely 11 to 13 quarterbacks who are truly franchise cornerstones that their teams really like and want to keep, and the rest about 20 to 22 seats are open and available for a quarterback to come in as either a bridge solution or a good enough solution given the team around them. I think that the Buccaneers are a very interesting situation. I think that sending Geno Smith over to the Raiders could be a really interesting situation. And so if you're just a Geno Smith fan, well, he has hit his renaissance. Geno Smith could be a starting quarterback for many, many teams in the NFL today. And hell, I'd even say the Broncos might prefer Geno Smith over Russell Wilson today. When you're playing fantasy football and you have Geno Smith on your team, it's clear that Geno has appreciating value. And for those league mates that are trying to tell you that Geno Smith is a one-year wonder, I just don't believe that Geno Smith has seen the best days. There are more opportunities available for him, and given the fact that quarterbacks like him who can deliver, who can guide your offense, and who is a savvy veteran, there's no way he's going to be signing a deal anything less than 3 years. And so, given all of these factors, Geno Smith has a bright future for 2022 and 2023, regardless of what team he ends up on. I'm Abhi Gupta. Thanks for watching today's short episode. Make sure to like and subscribe our channel and this video. See you later.